Manchester United might never have been the powerhouse they are had it not been for the brilliance of Sir Alex Ferguson. While Sir Matt Busby announced the club onto the big stage nearly 70 years ago, it's Sir Alex's achievements that put him in the pantheon of footballing greats. The Scotsman is one of the greatest managers to have ever lived, and it's his legacy that the Red Devils are trying to protect to this date. So what was it about Sir Alex that made him great and allowed him to take a club fighting for mid-table positions to a giant that dominated English football for 2 decades while enjoying huge respect all across Europe and the rest of the world? In his 27 years at the club, Sir Alex built 3 legendary sides and quite a few amazing ones. All these sides won trophies at a rate that hasn't been repeated to date. Even though Liverpool are really tearing it apart in England, the Reds might never come anywhere near the achievements of their bitter rivals. Under Ferguson, countless world stars came and left. Some were academy graduates, some arrived for a bargain, and others were signed for a fortune. The arrival of Eric Cantona was the turning point of how Sir Alex Ferguson and Manchester United would be seen in the eyes of the world. The Red Devils were resting on past laurels and could only gaze in envy as Liverpool dominated football in England and beyond. Entering the first Premier League season, United mounting a title assault was a far-fetched assumption. By the end of the first half of the campaign, Sir Alex's side were in 7th place in the league standings. And then something happened, an event that set forth a similar chain of events like the Big Bang. Eric Cantona was leading the charge as Leeds United chased the dream of becoming the first ever Premier League champions. The Frenchman was a huge hit, and Sir Alex Ferguson ended up convincing the enigmatic striker that it was at the Theatre of Dreams where he would be able to leave a legacy. Cantona was somehow convinced, and once he joined the Red Devils and wore the iconic number 7 jersey, it became clear that things would not be normal anymore. Manchester United was never the same anymore, and the same can be said of English football. The Red Devils resumed the campaign with a new desire and ended up lifting their first ever league title in decades. Things would never be the same again. This was a new look Manchester United that was buoyed by the mercurial talents of Cantona, the guile of Steve Bruce, and the leadership of Brian Robson. This was a team that was going to be Sir Alex Ferguson's first squad that would define the future of the Red Devils. However, there was a twist in the tale. During this whole time, Sir Alex made a habit of making bold decisions by letting go of senior players and taking his chances on younger and far hungrier players. During the 1995-96 season, the Great Scot decided to give a chance to the club's academy graduates, Ryan Giggs, Nicky Butt, the Neville brothers and David Beckham, a group of under-23 players who were expected to replace the likes of Steve Bruce et alumni. Following a 3-1 defeat at the hands of Aston Villa, football pundit Alan Hansen gave a damning insight on what went wrong for Ferguson's side before coining a statement that would never be forgotten ever again. Hansen, during the post-game analysis, blasted Ferguson's tactics and said, "You can't win anything with kids." That was exactly the sort of fuel the team needed as the Red Devils went on to claim the Premier League crown that season, while Hansen was left regretting his choice of words. Here's how old the cornerstones of that season were. Gary Neville, 20, Paul Scholes, 20, Ryan Giggs, 21, Phil Neville, 18, Nicky Butt, 20, David Beckham, 20, John O'Kane, 20. This was one of the youngest sides in Premier League history to have won the league, and this was an instance that further sealed Sir Alex's reputation of a manager who made gambles, but only after assessing the risk to reward probability. There are some managers who are great at succeeding in one area of the game, and as the game evolves, start struggling to maintain their standards. The likes of Jose Mourinho and Carlo Ancelotti won a lot, but eventually settled for less than loftier ambitions as years passed them by. Sir Alex Ferguson was different. The Scot was able to sustain a lot of pressure in a long and illustrious career, and regardless of the varying issues he was presented with, always had a trump card up his sleeve. For Ferguson, creating a team was putting together a group of hungry individuals and bend them into flexible pieces of a puzzle that was rarely solved by anyone. This is a manager who was always open to change and made sure that he was always up to date with the changing times. Throughout his reign, United made history on a regular basis, and we're sure that it would be difficult for anyone to come anywhere near those standards, let alone meet them. The managers of today don't have the time to give sufficient chances to youth players. The likes of Jose Mourinho and even Pep Guardiola prefer to buy big players to get the job done. With Sir Alex, the case was totally different. The legendary tactician would take his chances with younger players, even if in the short term he would see them struggle. When he took over from Ron Atkinson in 1986, United's squad average age was around 29. Ferguson changed that by introducing academy players to the first team. The last time United had a good group of homegrown players was when the iconic Busby Babes ruled the country before the Munich tragedy befell them. The class of '92 would serve as a template for longevity and success for not just United but all those other clubs whose financial limitations forced them into adopting an approach that would pay dividends in the long run. While signings such as Juan Sebastian Veron, Eric Cantona, Ruud van Nistelrooy and Robin van Persie were made, the focus was always to give a platform to the academy players to shine while learning the trade from the best in the business. While there were a few bad signings here and there, one cannot argue the fact that Ferguson knew how to spot a diamond in the rough. The likes of Roy Keane and Paul Scholes were plucked at a time when they weren't even famous. Javier Hernandez's potential was seen before the 2010 World Cup. Cristiano Ronaldo cost the club only €7 million, and all of us know how that move turned out. Henrik Larsson was brought on for a brief period just to add a bit more dynamism to the attack, and that too worked out. Edwin van der Sar was brought in at an age where most big European clubs would look at younger alternatives. For sure, the Dutch legend is the second best keeper in the club's history after Peter Schmeichel. Sir Alex's biggest challenge came when Chelsea were bought by Roman Abramovich. The Londoners spent a crazy amount of money in the transfer market and ended up winning back-to-back titles under Jose Mourinho. This was the moment where everyone thought that United's nearly unchallenged reign at the top was over. Ferguson went on to assemble another amazing squad that would win league titles and the Champions League. The noisy neighbours arrived with their riches but were also tamed. The last league title United won was when Ferguson had perhaps the weakest squad he had ever managed in his 27 years. We would be remiss to not talk about the team's attitude under Sir Alex. Scoring goals at the death, or the squeaky bum time as the great one would once say, was considered a norm. United would never give up. Whether it was going down 2-0 at half-time against Tottenham at home, or with 5 minutes left at a Champions League final, the players knew that they could still end up winning. Ferguson also never tolerated anyone who would try to step on his toes. The moment he saw David Beckham trying to become bigger than the club, he was sold to Real Madrid. In hindsight, it was a smart decision, since the iconic number 7's performance levels had dipped. Ruud van Nistelrooy's issue with Cristiano Ronaldo saw him get shipped off to Madrid, while Roy Keane's contract was terminated the moment he went live on TV to criticise his teammates after a league defeat. Ferguson would not have anyone challenge his authority. The players he had respected him, feared him, and thought the world of him. In today's football, managers aren't that strong, but if Ferguson was here, he would be bringing his hairdryer to the dressing room without worrying about touching a few nerves. Sir Alex was the ultimate cerebral assassin, a master of the mind games. The likes of Roberto Mancini, Rafael Benitez, Kevin Keegan and Jose Mourinho all tried to battle it out with the legend but left with nothing but contorted thoughts. From press conferences to interviews, Ferguson made sure to get inside his opposite number's head, and in most cases it worked out. You cannot knock Liverpool off the perch without having such an ability. So yes, Ferguson was a great manager, perhaps the greatest of all time. He's a man who created a dynasty and a corporate empire that is still standing tall despite a desolate last few years. Many managers have come and gone since Sir Alex Ferguson's retirement, but no one has been able to come out of the Glaswegian shadow. We don't see it happening anytime soon anyway.